Hello, you're listening to another episode of First Film Podcast, a podcast where two film idiots talk about a director's first film and then explore their filmography through the lens of their first film. Say hi, Dan.
Hi.
Today we're talking about Michael Bay and Bad Boys in honor of Men's Health Month. We're talking about the masculine director, Michael Bay. This was planned.
This is the men's episode of the pod.
This is for dudes who rock.
We earned this with the Patty Jenkins episode.
Yeah, we did one episode about a female director, so you know what? It's time to indulge the boys a little bit. Men's health is important. Michael Bay respects and stands men.
That's true.
I
have nothing more to say. All right, we covered
Bye.
Michael Bay.
See you guys. Dan, what's your experience with Mr. Bay? What's your experience with his oeuvre?
Well, you and I, a few years ago, decided to sit down and watch every single Transformers movie.
I looked this up. That was 2017. That doesn't seem real.
Yeah, I guess that was a while ago, huh?
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so we sat down and we watched all of them. I think we had some vague idea that we would make a podcast about it. We never did.
No.
I have just seen all the Transformers movies
So now you guys have to suffer through even more Michael Bay horse shit, because we didn't do it 3 years ago.
Yeah, that was it. Though I had never seen any of the non-Transformers movies that he had directed until I started getting ready for this episode.
Well, I mean, it's because Bay is generally considered, like, the shit director. Like, he makes films for idiots. There's nothing sensible about them. So, like, why would you watch any of his films unless you're gonna hate watch Transformers like we did?
Had you seen a lot of them beyond Transformers?
I had literally only seen one other. I had seen Pain and Gain, which is very much not a Michael Bay film.
A very strange one.
But actually, in retrospect, is kind of very Michael Bay, which we'll get to later, I guess. But I think having that as your only non-Transformer Michael Bay movie is not a reflective introduction to Michael Bay.
I was gonna say that is like leaves you with a very confusing idea of who Michael Bay is, but honestly, having seen all of his movies, I'm very confused. He's a very complex guy.
He's a complex man for complex thinkers, and we're gonna unpack him for you guys, because you guys don't know the real Bay like we do.
Because some of you aren't dudes.
Yeah, and you don't rock, and we are dudes who rock, and we're gonna talk about dudes rocking.
Some of you haven't gone home and fucked the prom queen, alright? So we're gonna give you a lesson.
That's a line from The Rock for those of us who have not seen every Michael Bay film.
This is the worst podcast where we make bad jokes and then we go, that one was actually from Pearl Harbor.
This is an inside joke. What are the jokes from Pearl Harbor?
Welcome to Reference Court. The jokes in Pearl Harbor is like everyone getting injected into the ass.
Yeah, just sticking you in the butt.
Yeah.
You want to go right into the
tell me about Michael Bay.
All right. So Michael Benjamin Bay was born on February 17th, 1965. It is unknown to the public who Bay's biological parents were, though Bay has apparently tracked down his biological mom, and it was believed for a time that the Manchurian Candidate director, John Frankenheimer, was his biological dad.
That's very disputed, is it not?
DNA tests have proved that John Frankenheimer is not Michael Bay's dad.
Okay, one down, 7.8 billion to go.
We don't know. Could be any other famous film director, I guess. But Bay was quickly adopted and raised by Harriet Bay, who was a bookstore owner and childhood psychologist, and Jim Bay, who was a CPA. They raised him in a Jewish household near Santa Monica, California, and his adopted parents sent him to the Crossroads School for Arts and Sciences, which is a private K-12 school famous for its celebrity clientele.
Ooh, remind me what state this is?
This is in California.
Okay,
so
California.
I think he was born in California.
That makes sense.
Also,
yeah.
He was raised there, and he went to a very wealthy, affluent private school, which leads me to believe that his parents were also probably pretty affluent.
Well, they were Jews.
Yeah, so of course they had the money. They had the money and the connections. And I do think that honestly does reflect itself in his movies, the wealth, the opulence.
Oh, the wealth. Okay, I thought you were talking about the Judaism.
The Judaism?
I think the only Jewish representation in Michael Bay movies is Tony Shalhoub's character in Pain and Gain. Which is very interesting
Disputed. To me. I think John Turturro in the Transformers franchise is also probably Jewish.
Well, John Turturro says that he based that character off of Michael Bay himself.
So technically Jewish.
So I guess.
I also believe, I read an article that was very funny to me about how the Transformers are reflective of the Jewish experience.
Okay.
We're not going to unpack that.
Let's circle back, but tell me more about, I think Michael Bay is in 5th grade right now. We got very distracted.
Michael Bay
let's keep going.
in school. So Bay claims his interest in action films dates all the way back to an incident during his early childhood in which he attached firecrackers to toy trains and filmed the fiery explosive results with his mom's 8mm camera. And apparently this incident led to a fire that was so out of hand that the fire department had to be called and he was grounded for a long time.
It really is a super villain origin story.
So he just one day accidentally exploded shit and he's like, I want to do this forever now. So Bay's first actual job in the film industry came at a really early age. When Bay was only like 15 years old, he was responsible for filing the storyboards for Steven Spielberg's...
Spielberg, right?
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark, a film he was convinced was going to be terrible.
Okay.
It wasn't terrible, and after seeing it in theaters, Bay was sure that he wanted to spend the rest of his life behind the camera.
That's how cynical do you have to be 15 years old, working for Steven Spielberg
of all
on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you're like, yeah, this sucks.
Well,
this
you're like a fucking
so
edgelord. Like, I know good movies, and this is some hack fraud. Steven Spielberg, what did he make? One good movie? He made, like, Close Encounters, garbage sci-fi. I think at that point, I think that was like his only big hit. He had done like Duel. Oh no, he did Jaws in '75. He had already done Jaws.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he was just like
15-year-old Michael Bay should have trusted Spielberg.
Yeah, probably. Everyone should trust Spielberg.
I think Michael Bay does trust Spielberg now. I think they have a very, very good working relationship.
Oh yeah, I think he's done movies for DreamWorks. And that's Steven Spielberg's production company.
Yeah, I think they've produced each other's movies.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, so Bay went on to attend at Wesleyan University. He majored in English and film. Early in his tenure at Wesleyan, Bay was unsure as to whether or not he wanted to pursue cinematography or photography until he took a class with famed professor and film critic and historian Janine Basinger, who Bay has called, quote, a great professor and a real guru on movies.
She loves Michael Bay too.
She does.
I think she said that he's like the most talented filmmaker,
which is insane because she's worked with tons of guys who would go on to like, and girls who would go on to like make Hollywood films. So Bay being the most talented is so interesting to me. I don't necessarily dispute that either.
I'm not sure. Did she? Am I correct that she's given him that superlative?
I believe so.
She's given him very, very high praise.
Yeah. So the course he took with her was on movie musicals, actually, about which he said, about the course he said, quote, frankly, it was a course that I wasn't really excited to take. But that course on musicals really opened my eyes to how far you can push the film medium and where you can take it in terms of cutting and craft. It's strange, but when filmmakers are forced to solve problems you need to solve to shoot dance, they really find themselves using the film medium to its fullest.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's pretty easy to draw that connection to action.
Yeah,
like choreographing a dance sequence
is
on
very
film
much
and
like choreographing action.
An insane car chase.
I mean, it's literally called choreography.
They're both choreography, yeah, of course. I know that Michael Bay adores West Side Story.
Yes, I pulled this quote from an article where he's talking about how his favorite movie, or at least the movie he kept rewatching while he was editing Pearl Harbor, was West Side Story.
Interesting.
And he talks about in that interview how it's an incredibly dynamic film. He loves how every shot in that film is dynamic and how every cut is dynamic. And I think that ideology absolutely just imbues itself in everything he does. This idea of the most dynamic shot, the most dynamic cut, the most dynamic everything. Devoid of context, it's got to be dynamic.
Yeah, that's the word, I guess. He is a dynamic man who makes dynamic movies, and every image that you see is dynamic. Even if it doesn't make sense, you got to go with the most shot. So Bay graduated from Wesleyan in '86 and continued his graduate work in film at Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. And then Bay began working at Propaganda Films, a music video and commercial production company, where he was in the director's chair like 2 weeks after he received his postgrad That's
degree.
crazy. Yeah, he was like 26 years old, and directing commercials and music videos, and by all accounts, he was
really
amazing
good
at it.
Yeah. He quickly became like the man behind the music videos for like heavy hitters like Tina Turner and Lionel Richie and Meatloaf.
Meatloaf.
He did direct the I Would Do Anything for Love music video.
He did, and also Objects in the Rearview Mirror.
I don't know what that song is.
Objects in the rearview mirror.
I'm gonna make you sing more.
Closer than they are. No, but
okay, I do know the song.
That music video has a plane crash in it and
that
an explosion.
Scans.
It is very
Michael Bay. For Michael Bay.
Honestly, that whole music video is a lot like the first scene in Pearl Harbor.
Oh,
when they're children.
Yes.
And they like jack a plane.
And they almost crash it. They get it off the ground, and it's
so much
shaky.
Of the imagery is like really
ripped out of that music video.
Yeah, very much so.
I've never seen it, so that's so funny.
Definitely, yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out.
I was gonna say, did you go back and watch his early commercials and his music videos?
I watched some of them.
I did not. You've done more prep work.
I saw some music videos. I know there's a Vanilla Ice song.
Amazing.
Called "I Love You," which is a very bad song.
Of course, it's Vanilla Ice.
There's a Got Milk commercial.
Yes, I was going to talk about that.
Which is a very good
Iconic.
commercial. Yeah.
So he did those music videos, and he won national advertising awards for his commercials for the Red Cross and for his work making some of the more iconic Got Milk commercials of the 90s.
Right.
So Michael Bay is directly responsible for like one of the most recognizable ad campaigns in history.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 93, Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson, who are the producers specifically, behind movies like Top Gun and Beverly Hills Cop, they were looking for a director for a project that was set to be the next thing to set box offices aflame. So they plucked a successful upstart out of relative obscurity, gave him $19 million, and then told him to make magic happen. And the end result was Michael Bay's debut feature, Bad Boys. And so here we are. All right, so Dan, could you give us a plot summary for Bad Boys, please?
Jake, I can try.
Yeah, because it's really nonsense.
Well, this is a theme in every Michael Bay movie, which is like you watch them, even if you love them, you like try to think about what happened, and it's like, well,
it's a flim flam. It's
okay,
nothing.
but in essence, the plot is that Will Smith and Martin Lawrence
Martin Freeman.
Not Martin Freeman. No, good to clarify. Are police officers in Miami, narcotics division. Before the film begins, we learn that they did a huge heroin bust.
Yeah.
And the movie is about how the heroin got stolen from the evidence locker,
Yes.
and they have to catch the guys who took it before the information goes public, and the FBI gets involved, and it's a big PR disaster for the police division.
They also have to protect a witness,
and they have to switch roles with each other.
And they also have to get revenge on the guy who killed Max, who was a girl that Will Smith's character
had
was
some
dating,
kind of relationship with.
Or fucking, we're not sure. There are like 5.
He was sad when she died.
Yeah, even though they shared one scene together. There are like 5 different inciting incidents in this movie.
Yeah, it's like, what is this? Because this, theoretically, I feel like it makes the most sense for this movie to be about Will Smith, who in the movie is like super cool and suave and rich.
He ostensibly is the main character. He's coming off of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's a megastar.
Martin Lawrence is maybe more the main character in Bad Boys, because he goes through more of an arc. Martin Lawrence is the opposite of Will Smith. He's kind of nerdy, nebbishy is the right word. He's a family man. He's not going out and like laying women. He's got a wife who he isn't allowed to have sex with, and that is
which brings up a point about Bay films. Everyone knows that Bay films are like these super macho films about cool guys. I've noticed so many of his main characters don't fuck. Not. His characters never fuck.
I don't think his characters are about cool guys. His characters are about like really pathetic, angry guys.
A lot of them are.
I mean, sure, we're
you have a few exceptions, like in 13 Hours and Pearl Harbor, sort of. Although Pearl Harbor has some cuckery going on as well.
Pearl Harbor, yeah. Well, yeah.
So many of his characters are obnoxious, preening.
Well, I mean, Shia LaBeouf in Transformers is an iconic example
of such an annoying,
of like an entitled 19-year-old who can't do anything,
never gets to fuck, never gets to be cool.
And I think that says a lot. I mean, if we can psychoanalyze Michael Bay, it says a lot about how he might see himself, or maybe how he sees his audience.
American man, who he's marketing these films for.
Right. Okay, so anyway, Bad Boys. You would think that the plot is like that they switch places with each other and they both learn a lesson, and that does happen, but that also doesn't happen until like almost halfway through the movie. So, like, just structurally,
it's nonsense.
What is going on? Who can say?
Did you like Bad Boys?
Yeah.
Really?
I think Bad Boys is good.
I did not enjoy my time with Bad Boys.
It's not amazing. I think it's like a solid... It's funny when it needs to be funny. The action is good. I think Martin Lawrence especially gives a really good performance, and he's fun to watch.
Martin Lawrence is always very charming. I find his very early films, I want to say everything pre-Pearl Harbor, Armageddon, The Rock, and Bad Boys, are almost like, it seems almost paradoxical to say, but they're almost like slow cinema in that they're meant to be...
Well, compared to what he would later go on to do.
Yeah, well, even still, like, slow cinema is this thing where you put it on and you kind of, like, ebb in and out of awareness that you're even watching it. You're, like, sort of almost meant to fall asleep to it.
Interesting.
Early Bay films are films that you're meant to put on TNT while you're doing something else, because you know these films so well, and you kind of ebb in and out of being aware that you're watching them.
I've never heard that term before, but that, I think, that tracks.
Yeah.
And those are also my favorites. I think it's fair to say that, like, the first 3 Michael Bay movies, you mentioned Bad Boy, The Rock, Armageddon, are, I think, the best ones.
Because the plots are almost ephemeral. They don't really matter so much to what's going on. You're just most meant to vibe with the action, kind of pick up a few one-liners.
It's really unclear how these scenes are connected to each other, or, like, how, or if
how
the
these
A and B
characters'
plots
motivations
are ever
were
gonna mix.
Yeah, it doesn't really
and
matter.
It's fine because each scene has, like, nice shots and a lot of movement and sometimes explosions.
And they're dynamic.
And sometimes it's funny. And here you're like, oh, okay, they're switching places now.
But I think it's
so... And then later you're like, okay, they're being racist to their Hispanic coworkers now.
Doesn't fucking matter.
It's like, oh, what's that?
Who cares?
A man in a convenience store is yelling? Okay.
About how I will, you mother bitches, or whatever the fuck it is.
Yes.
Mother bitches, I blow you, which is funny. When he says, I blow you, it's funny.
And yeah, okay, now the dogs are shitting on the carpet.
Why not?
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
There is technically a plot.
But there are like 4 of them, and none of them really mix or match. They're just like throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what's going to grab your attention. It doesn't really matter.
And I think that makes a lot of sense, and I find is a lot less frustrating when you're aware of Michael Bay's background as a commercial director.
Yeah, where it's just you gotta grab attention.
Or yes, a commercial typically is like 30 seconds long, and every single shot is going to be dynamic.
Yes.
It's going to have movement, it's going to have motion, it's sometimes going to have layers of motion on top of motion.
Yeah.
It's going to be like super lit, and like if there are women, it's going to be sexy.
Yeah.
If there are men, it's going to be sexy too.
Michael Bay
Michael Bay shoots every single shot like it's the hero shot.
I was going to say, he gets a lot of flack for, like, the male gaze, for how he frames female bodies, and deservedly so. He almost always just turns them into fucking objects. He does that very often with men, too. A lot of hero shots of men shirtless or rugged. I noticed it a lot in 13 Hours, where you just get shirtless, sweaty,
there's
pulsing
the
muscles.
very, very iconic scene in Bad Boys where Will Smith is running with his shirt open. And it's entirely unclear where he's running.
Doesn't matter.
If he's running, is he running from something? Is he running to something? Where is he spatially in relation to the...
It doesn't matter. It's Will Smith running.
Will Smith is sexy, and he's running towards the camera.
He's getting he's grabbing your eyeballs. Yeah. I just wanted to say, circling
back... And Will Smith did not want to do that scene.
Did he not?
No, and Michael Bay was like, trust me, you will be hot, it will work.
Was he, like, embarrassed of
Michael
his body?
Bay was right.
Yeah, no, Will Smith is hot.
Will Smith, of course, is hot, but I think Will Smith thought that it was, like, insanely cheesy and maybe lame to be, like, shirtless and running towards the camera in slow motion.
Michael Bay knows what he's doing regarding that shit.
Yeah.
I just want to circle back to because I just think it's so interesting how slow cinema is, like, the emphasis is placed on, like, nothing happening. It's just very ephemeral. It's like not nonsensical dialogue, but the dialogue is, like, very ephemeral and philosophical. There's no plot or action. And I think that's, like, the tightest analog to these films, where you're just, like, almost aware that these films are on at times. Like, it doesn't almost matter.
Right. Which maybe seems ironic because Michael Bay is known for, like, having so much going on and so many explosions
and you just become
so
numb
much
to
action.
It.
Right, but if that is every single scene, then, like, eventually your brain overheats and will just shut off.
And you just can't process any of it, and you're just like, all right, I gotta focus on something
else, I think that's the recipe to really get frustrated by a Michael Bay movie, is to try to follow what's happening and to really care about the plot and, like,
you just gotta
understand
sink into it.
Every shot is supposed to be beautiful.
Yeah.
And most of the time, every shot is beautiful.
Really nice. So, like, you have nice intersecting lines, beautifully lit. He's really a master of lighting, I have to say.
I mean, I think that goes back to him being an amazing commercial director. Yeah, he nails the lighting. I mean, I think Armageddon, it really, really stands out.
Of his early films, Armageddon is my absolute favorite.
I totally agree with you.
The Rock, for some reason, you put Sean Connery and
Nicolas Cage.
It should be great. The Rock I found totally boring.
Yeah, I love The Rock. I think The Rock's very good.
I felt the same way about Bad Boys. The only one I really vibed with was Armageddon, and I think it's because I'm an absolute slut for Ben Affleck.
I vibe hard with Armageddon. Okay, we're gonna get to all those.
Yes,
but tell me about Bad Boys. You said you didn't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it because I feel like it doesn't necessarily do anything quite right. Like, you could
correct.
I mean, like, you could say a lot of the things you would say about Bad Boys 2 or Pain and Gain, in that how they're movies about obnoxious, preening assholes who indulge in, like, gross machismo, and in that way it's a reflection of the American male, and it's like our id reflected back at us, and maybe that's why I find it repulsive. But I find that his later films do that so much better, and eschewing plot so much better, and just focusing on these like fucked up ideals of what masculinity and American like values are. This one, I think, still kind of tries to fixate on plot too much.
I think that's probably why I like it more.
Oh.
The exact same reasons that you don't like it. I mean, yeah, Bad Boys 2, it's the same characters, and they are absolute monsters.
And I think that's why I love Bad Boys 2.
Evil nihilists in Bad Boys 2. Bad Boys 1, they are still grounded and, like, they're assholes, right? A lot of their behavior and attitudes are reprehensible, but it's still toned down just enough that, like, I'm charmed by it.
No, I find that it needs to go balls to the wall. At this point, when it's trying to have its cake and eat it too, be like a digestible narrative feature with like some fun, like comedy bits and some unhinged action, I think it doesn't quite split the difference, and I wasn't able to just sink into it like I am able to his later films.
Okay, that's fair.
I just want to say, I think the apotheosis of this, I don't know if I think apotheosis is like not the opposite.
Listen, you're not going to hear me correct you.
Okay,
you can use apotheosis any way you want. Like, gotta get my arm amputated, I got apotheosis in my fingers. Like, okay, yeah, sounds about right.
I think the best microcosm of the film is this one shot of Joe Pantoliano when he's shooting basket. He's great. There's a wonderful Sopranos reunion of him and Michael Imperioli in this. Crazy. But there's a shot of Joe Pantoliano where he's shooting basketball.
I think you're talking about where it zooms into his face.
Yeah, it's this low angle push in. The lighting is very film noir. There's like there's smoke filtering up from his cigar.
Michael Bay, like he does in every single scene, is really emphasizing what is happening here.
Yeah.
The camera movement, the lighting, the low angle, it all implies that what is being said
is so important.
You have to listen.
And can I read you the line?
I think you wrote it down, so please
Yes.
do.
He says, and I quote in this incredibly well-lit dramatic moment, "What did I say? Did you hear what I said? I heard what I said because I was standing here when I said it." That's the line. It's nothing. It's gibberish. And it's so like perfectly emblematic of the film, where they're like, or of his entire filmography, where it's just incredibly dramatic lighting.
But the thing is, there's no self-awareness there. It is a comedy line, but it's not filmed like it's comedy. And it is very similar to that line in Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah.
Where also the camera is doing almost the same thing, and Fantastic Mr. Fox's wife says...
Meryl Streep,
yes, thank you, says... if what I think is happening here is happening, it better not be.
Which is also a nonsense line.
Which is nonsense, but it's played, but it's like tongue-in-cheek there.
Yes.
I don't think that Michael Bay is doing this tongue-in-cheek. I think it's just the only way that he knows how to shoot.
Yeah.
And that's like, it makes it impossible to follow the dialogue, because like normally you do shot reverse, right?
Yeah.
Michael Bay does not do that. Every single frame we look at, every shot is different than the shot that came before it.
Yeah, I wanted to say
so
that
it's
he
like
has no
everything
idea how to
is
film
the entire
dialogue.
script is like bolded italics exclamation mark after it. So it's like, how do you know what to pay attention to? Because normally you do shot reverse, stay like that, and then you would change the shot. The audience wakes up, new information is being revealed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if new information is being revealed. It doesn't matter if a joke is happening.
It's all the same.
It doesn't matter if it's like, you mother bitches, I blow you. Michael Bay
shot
will,
the same way,
will
the most dynamic
like
way.
It is the climax of the movie.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. The reason I think that, I mean, like, that kind of shit I love, but there's still...
I think it's hilarious.
It's wonderful.
Some of it unintentionally so.
But I don't care, because I'm still enjoying it.
It's still, I mean, the performances in Bad Boys...
They're given 110%.
Are really what do it, yeah.
There's still, I think... the microcosm or apotheosis, whichever one makes more sense,
Okay.
of why I don't love the first Bad Boys is there's the scene when they're driving the ice cream truck and you take like 20 seconds for everyone to explain how on board is this ether, this explosive stuff, and they throw it out and then they shoot it.
The insane thing is I forgot about this part of the movie.
Because it doesn't matter. But in later Bay films, they would not spend any time explaining why shit blows up. Shit would just fucking blow. But they stop and they try to like dispense information and explain why shit's gonna blow up. And I'm like, Bay, you don't gotta be telling me why things are gonna blow up. Just blow the motherfucker up. I don't care why.
It's also, you could also maybe argue that after Armageddon, Michael Bay did not have to warn you that explosions were coming.
That's true.
You know, in Bad Boys,
Pearl Harbor,
it's his directorial debut.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it before.
No.
Why, if you are watching a car chase,
about to innovate cinema.
You're not primed to believe that the cars are just going to start exploding.
I think he just reinvented film language, so he had to tell you why he was doing it.
Absolutely. No, I think that you definitely watch Michael Bay movies the way that you watch like a genre movie.
Yeah.
You know, and like there are certain expectations that you have of the genre, and that informs how you are going
about
to watch
to approach it
and how you're going to react to the movie. I think that is absolutely true for Michael Bay movies too. Like if any other director showed me a sunset and then the next scene was like the middle of the day, I would be confused.
But that happens all the time.
He wrote his own film language, and in that language, sunsets can just happen
whenever, because they're pretty.
Yeah.
I want to say, I don't think I've ever seen more gorgeous establishing shots. Michael Bay nails action and establishing shots all the time.
Boys, like that shot of the Miami sign
with the low angle with the
that's an amazing shot.
Or
really iconic.
Another one where the credits are happening, where I think you see Martin Lawrence's name, and you see these intersecting lines of lamp posts, and this horizon is orange. You see a plane flying by. You see cars going down.
And the cars coming towards you. The plane's in the background. There's
gorgeous.
Another one where the car's coming towards you, and a boat is in the background. That's what Michael Bay is amazing at. And they're not easy to pull off.
You have to time it with planes and cars.
Layer of movement.
During magic hour, like insane shots to time, and he nails them every time.
So like, yeah, it's easy to shit on Michael Bay, but like very, very few people can do the things that he does.
Master of his craft, reinventing film language. Does that mean I enjoy his films?
God,
no. A lot of the time, they are very difficult to watch. But he is an essential filmmaker for anyone who's trying to... I think you have to watch him if you want to make a movie. You don't have to make his movies. You absolutely shouldn't make his movies. They're very difficult to watch. But you can pick up so much great film, like, making craft from his film.
Well, what he's great at doing is, like, shooting action. And, like, when he has a movie where it makes sense to do that all the time, it's a great movie. Like Armageddon.
I want to say he's great at shooting action and framing action. Editing, I don't think he's ever gotten right.
I think he has too much control of the edit.
I don't know what that room looks like.
I think Michael Bay has his fingers on like every single part of his movies. Yeah. He's very in control, and I think that's a mistake. I think even bad Michael Bay movies are largely bad because they're edited poorly.
Editing is his weak suit. Editing he cannot get right.
A lot of his bad movies are 2.5 hours long. If you cut an hour from those movies, they would probably be fine.
I'm not even saying the length is necessarily a problem. Don't get me wrong, the length is a problem for a lot of them.
I'm just saying that he has enough material to make a good movie.
Yeah.
I think he just, like, he can't focus.
I think we have to go back to talking... Well, one, he can't focus. Two, I think we have to go back to talking about choreography. Mm-hmm. I think the most satisfying choreography in musicals I find are films like On the Town, or Top Hat, or La La Land, or Singin' in the Rain. Films or musicals specifically. Also Funny Girl. Everyone should watch, not Funny Girl, watch Funny Girl, but Hello Dolly. All these musicals let the choreography breathe. They show you the performers doing the damn dance. They don't cut it into oblivion. They don't make you like, they don't change the angle of the camera every 2 seconds. They let the performers dance, and they show you, wow, look at these incredibly talented dancers do the damn fucking thing. I want him to do that with his action. I want him to show you.
He very rarely does.
He will never show you.
Well, he shoots in like ultra close-ups.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yes.
And
because it's very dynamic, very dramatic.
Right. He has no concern with how these individual shots like tell a story when woven together. This
Yeah.
shot is cool. This shot is cool.
So
this
is the
next
angle
shot
we're
is cool.
doing.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't even matter. Like normally when you are directing action, you would want to bear in mind like where the viewer's eyeball is on the screen.
He will make
and,
you
like,
go
keep
from the
the
top
focus
right
in the same
corner
place.
to the bottom left corner in like a millisecond, and it's
I mean,
impossible
that's why
to
they're
keep up with.
headache-inducing.
Yeah, they hurt to watch.
And I find that's
often.
more true in the later ones than like Transformers. I think
Transformers especially
are really
rough
almost
fucking movies to watch.
pretty unwatchable for that reason. But The
Yeah.
Rock has like chase scenes and action, and I think it's all choreographed really well. And you can tell what's going on, and I think
Well,
it's
at that
really
point, he's still
satisfying
making
and fun
movies
to
that
watch.
cap at about 2 hours 10 minutes. But once you
Right.
get to Transformers
And that have
land,
not an unlimited budget.
yeah. Now he's making Transformers movies. They're allowed to be 3 hours, and he gets $250 million to make them, and they're nonsense. That's not to say he hasn't done anything worth watching in the past 10 years. I think 13 Hours and 6 Underground, you could say whether they're good, they're bad, but they're definitely worth watching. But I don't want to get there yet. I think we still have shit to talk
There's
about.
still stuff to talk about for Bad
Boys.
I think going back to Sunsets, I think it's so funny that like Michael Bay is a dude who loves like hot babes. He loves helicopters.
Yes.
He loves explosions.
He loves cars.
And he loves sunsets.
He does love a nice
And he
sunset.
loves tiny little dogs.
He loves pools. He loves
He
the
does love
finer
pools.
things in life. He likes... I think he also... I don't know what else he loves, maybe, but I know what he absolutely hates the most in this world. And he hates egghead pencil pushers who don't let the men do their jobs.
He hates the government.
He does hate the government, but... yeah, he does. And I think it's so interesting because who would be like the primary like example, the example of the machismo man who loves Michael Bay films? It's cops and it's officers, military officers.
No. He loves cops. He loves soldiers. He hates their boss.
And he also kind of...
So they would love it even more, I would think.
Well, so like let's talk about Bad Boys.
Right.
They're awful fucking cops. They're the worst at their jobs. They're absolute fucking
They get the
idiots.
job done.
The fucking...
They save the day.
The FBI guys in fucking The Rock are idiots too. They suck shit. The only guy who's good at their job is Nick Cage, who's also kind of an egghead pencil pusher, and he's kind of the butt of a lot of jokes. But he's also the only one who gets to do anything cool.
Right. Well, I mean, I think if you look at 13 Hours, all of the secret soldiers of Benghazi are like badass heroes.
Sorta. I mean, yes, they are.
But then, like, the CIA guy, like, he's just there to be like, no, you can't do that. No, stand down.
But also, like...
And then also, like, yeah, you go to... Oh, God, what was the other one?
Six Underground?
Not really, like...
I don't know which...
Armageddon.
Oh, okay.
Is also, like, the government is, like, evil and doesn't want these boys to just be able to do their job.
Yeah.
Like, the government just exists in Michael Bay movies to tell soldiers who know better that they can't do what they need to do.
But then you have films like Bad Boys where the badasses are fucking idiots. And you have movies like Pain and Gain.
It doesn't matter that they're idiots. I feel like you're using that derogatively.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're stupid. Of course.
But they're bad at their jobs,
The audience
too.
identifies with them.
So I
don't think that they are bad at their jobs.
They are awful at their jobs.
Well, sure, if you consider their job, like, leaving, like, not killing civilians, and if you think their job is to, like, keep paperwork in order, and their job is, like, to do it by the books, then they're terrible at it. But if you think their job is to catch the bad guys,
but I think Michael Bay
it.
knows that, especially in his later films. You see a film like Pain and Gain, which is ostensibly about the type of characters he depicts in Armageddon and Bad Boys, and they're the butt of the fucking joke. They're absolutely moron meatheads who fuck everything up. You take a look at Six Underground, and he takes such squealing glee at showing you every dead body in the horrific ways they're mutilated, and you can't help but go, holy fuck, this is brutal. You see like decapitated heads squirting blood. I think he's genuinely one of America's like great satirists, and I say that without an ounce of sarcasm. He has reeled in this audience, and I think the reason that a lot of his more recent movies like Pain and Gain, like Six Underground, did like diddly squat is because he's finally pulling the rug out from underneath his audience and being like, you know, this audience I've cultivated, you guys are fucking idiots. Now, you guys will not enjoy this. Watch this shit about you that you're gonna hate. Yoink. And it's just a mirror now. This is just what we get. This is what we deserve.
I think that's a very interesting reading. I don't know that I agree with it. I think that Michael Bay is baffling and confounding, not because he is, like, unusual or he's trying to make, like, any sort of profound statement. I don't
even know if he is trying to. This is just what he's done.
I think that what is strange about Michael Bay is just how normal he is.
What do you mean?
I think most directors have, like, some sort of philosophy, some sort of message that they believe in. They are trying to make a point with cinema. They are interested in things that, like, the average person isn't necessarily spending a lot of time thinking about. I don't think Michael Bay is like that. I think Michael Bay just is a horny guy. He loves hot babes. He loves explosions. He thinks it's funny when black people are loud.
He thinks it's funny to make when gay people exist. Lots of gay panic jokes in these movies. We do have to say that there's a lot of casual homophobia and racism and misogyny.
It's problematic.
In these films.
I think he thinks soldiers are cool. Like, I think it's really that simple. I think he's a simple guy who has, like, the same taste that your uncle does, only he's able to make movies, and this is what you get.
Don't know that I agree. I think he's a deeply, deeply insecure man. I think he's 6'1", very athletic, and kind of lashes out at the thing he fears he is perceived as. He's a very wealthy guy, went to a nice liberal arts school. You hear that monologue in Bad Boys where Will Smith kind of like, it's not my fault I was born to wealth. I'm the first guy in and the last guy out. I put in so much hard work. I think he's very like guilty about that fact. I think he's guilty about the fact that he went to a private liberal arts school and became a fancy schmancy posh artist instead of like a badass cop or a hero army dude, and he cannot help but fetishize these guys.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, these movies are so logically and thematically incoherent that like you want to go to Michael Bay for answers. You're not going to find them there.
No.
He's not going to tell you. He's very private about what his personal politics are.
I don't think he is aware. I mean, I say that he's a great satirist. I don't know if he's ever trying to make a satire. I think it's very important to separate Michael Bay, the artist, from Michael Bay, the man, because I think so much of what you can take away from his films thematically and ideologically are placed there entirely subconsciously. I don't think he's aware of the fact that he's even like fetishizing these guys. I don't think he's aware of the fact that in the film 13 Hours, he's basically like saying that it's fucked up that these guys are here. They're fighting a war that they don't understand. They're not even American soldiers. They don't understand why they're there. They're basically just there to secure like oil contracts for Exxon billionaires. And he wants to criticize the American army, but he's so deeply ashamed of the fact that he's not badass enough to be like one of these soldiers that he can't help but valorize them towards the end when you see like them etching the 2 stars into the CIA headquarters to represent those who died. Like, I think there's so much wrapped up that even though his films are ideologically incoherent, it's because Michael Bay is putting so much shit in there subconsciously he doesn't even know it.
I don't know. I mean, we are fully in speculation corner right now.
Yeah, this is all projection.
And Michael Bay keeps very quiet about his politics, and that could mean 2 things in my mind.
Yes.
I think usually when public figures especially like choose to like never take a stand politically, it's probably because their politics
are not popular,
are bad.
Yeah.
Are not popular is a really great word. So I think like your first thought is like, okay, Michael Bay is obviously like
a Republican
Trump supporter, and that's why he doesn't want to talk about it. I think it could easily be the exact opposite though, because he is making films that are for middle America.
Audience, yeah.
He's making films featuring soldiers. He's making films that have like American flags in the background. He's
basically been trying to make Black Hawk Down for the past 10 years, right? And he finally got a shot with 13
that. If
Hours.
Michael Bay came out as like,
I mean, he was
a war skeptic and like a liberal guy, that would maybe be bad for business for him.
I mean, he grew up in a probably fairly affluent Jewish household in California and went to a Wesleyan, a very liberal East Coast, like small Ivy school. It's not an Ivy League school. It's like a small like Amherst type school. I would be shocked if he's honestly not a liberal.
Yeah, I kind of think that too. And
even though he's got very problematic shit in his films. He
well,
doesn't write
it doesn't
any
mean
of them.
that he's not, like, kind of sexist or homophobic or, like, racist, but, like, I think he probably voted for Obama. I don't know.
And he would probably vote for Obama a third
time if he could.
I think there's so much interesting here regarding, like, how he's able to hold up a mirror.
But I also quickly want to go back.
Yeah.
And I think that the text of his films also kind of support that. Like, if we talk about 13 Hours, like, what's his name? John Krasinski's character basically says what you said, that he's not even sure why he's there. He doesn't want to be there. He's not benefiting anybody. So, like, I think he's kind of aware of that, and that is sort of a theme of 13 Hours. I mean, all the themes are, like, pretty shallow and surface level.
Yeah, it's
but I
very
think that
hard.
Is a theme. And then we go to
very slippery like that.
To Pain and Gain, and it's for sure a critique of the American dream,
made by the American auteur, I think.
Right, Michael Bay kind of saying that the American dream is bullshit.
Yeah, like you just are gonna wind up as The Rock, just high on coke and losing your fucking mind.
Right. They're not as vacuous as we're giving them credit for.
Yeah, no, I think he definitely has shit to say. And even when he isn't aware of it, like Bad Boys 2, I think is one of the defining Bay films. It's overstuffed at 2.5 hours. It's preening. Every character is like Shia LaBeouf. They suck shit. They hate each other. We could talk about this in Bad Boys 1 also. The characters are ostensibly best friends, but you never, ever see them getting along.
Well,
they
you see
yell at each other
a little
constantly.
bit in Bad Boys. That's why I like Bad Boys, because there are some moments that are wholesome. I mean, for sure, there is a lot of toxicity in Bad Boys. A lot of homophobia. But they kind of get along. There are some moments where, like, you see them having positive interactions with each other.
With each other's... Like, Will Smith has positive interactions with Martin Lawrence's wife.
That's true.
But I don't know that he ever has a positive interaction with Martin Lawrence.
That's how you drive! From now on, that's how you drive!
That's it. That's the only thing, and it's at the very end.
It's something.
But my point is...
I think you're right, though. I think that Bad Boys 2 is, like... They really... I mean, I think they are evil nihilists. Yeah. Every character in that movie.
My favorite
They hate each other. We have to be constantly reminded that they are not gay. I know it seems kind of gay when two men are, like, friends with each other.
They're not
But don't
gay.
worry, they're not gay. And, in fact, they hate each other.
When there's ever a moment of, like, any potential sincerity or pathos, it is undercut with an explosion or violence or a joke. There's not... It's like a perfect reflection of masculinity in that way. I think the most emblematic scene in that film is when they're exterminating the house.
Oh, okay.
And you just see Martin Lawrence going off about how the rats, they fuck like us. The rats, they just fuck like us. And then you get a shot of two rats fucking
missionary
and this
style.
Is us. The rats... They fuck like us. We're the rats. This is us. This is what we get. It's like the perfect... It's the most emblematic document of Bush-era America
I was going to mention the scene in the camera store where earlier in the movie
perfect
Will Smith...
scene. Perfect gay panic scene.
Will Smith shot Martin Lawrence in the ass in, like, the first scene in the movie. Mm-hmm. So they are talking about it in a video store, but unbeknownst to them, they are being recorded and broadcast to like every screen in the store. And Martin Lawrence is like, oh man, my ass still hurts from what you did to me
last night.
And
or like yesterday, whatever the fuck.
And Will Smith's like, you know how I get crazy, I lose control.
I'm sorry, man. I know I still can't get it up from last night. Martin Lawrence also has ED the entire film.
Dysfunction.
Because at the very end of the first Bad Boys, Will Smith probably improv the throwaway line. He's like, why are you going home? You got shot in the leg. Your dick probably don't even work. And then the next film, he gets shot in the ass, so his dick does not work. I think they're like, that's such a good line, Will. We gotta make a movie about it. We gotta turn it into a B-plot. It's just... Yeah, Bad Boys 2 is fascinating. I also don't like Bad Boys 2.
No, of course not. Roger Ebert's review of Bad Boys 2 is very, very funny.
I've never read it. Do you got any good bits
He's basically saying what we're saying. He was, I think, deeply disturbed by it.
Of course, he's Roger Ebert. He's
it scared him. I really feel like Bad Boys 2
gave him the cancer that killed him.
Shook Roger
Ebert
to his core. He talks a lot about that scene where Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are intimidating the dude who's going to go on a date. Oh, yeah.
That's a
Martin
fucked
Lawrence's
up scene. I hate that scene so much.
It's a very bad scene.
Where
I think the only time you'll ever hear Will Smith say the N-word.
Oh, yeah. I forget he does say the N-word. It's a lot. They're just bullying this 16-year-old.
They literally pull a gun on him.
Apparently, the Michael Bay's direction to the kid who shows up. The scene is that Martin Lawrence's daughter is going out on a date with this boy, and the boy shows up, and Martin Lawrence and Will Smith open the door and try to intimidate him because he's going out with Martin Lawrence's daughter. The direction that Michael Bay gave to this kid was, do not look Martin Lawrence in the eye. He does not like to be looked directly in the eye. If you do look him in the eye, you will get a call from his agent. And so Martin Lawrence obviously is not like that, but Martin Lawrence starts staring him dead in the eye, and he's just so uncomfortable the entire scene. It's very fucked up that Bay did that. Bay also did not tell the kid that there was going to be a gun in the scene.
It's so funny.
That's some kind of Kubrick shit to just get your actors uncomfortable any way you can. But it's just a lot. That movie is so much excess. It is overstuffed, preening, so proud of itself, so garish, gilded in every way, and repulsive, repugnant, crass. It is America.
Well,
we deserve Michael Bay.
Are like so unashamed. They're 1-quadrant movies. They are for teenage boys.
Yes.
Which is a huge quadrant. I mean,
Massive
if you could only hit
demographic.
one, you would want to hit teenage boys because they'll bring their parents and they will bring their girlfriends to the movies.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously there are a lot of action movies, but like, I feel like Michael Bay is uniquely just embracing it. And I think Michael Bay it goes back to what I said before. I think he has the sensibilities of like a 16-year-old boy.
He gets
I think
them.
he genuinely thinks that scene is like very funny. I think he thinks like poop and middle fingers are hilarious.
And
that's why they're in all his movies.
I'm not entirely want to disagree with you. I just think there's enough repressed psychological bullshit going on in Michael Bay that it just bubbles out, whether he knows it or not. He's, I think, ashamed of something about him. I think he knows that he could have, or maybe he thinks he should have become like one of these hero badasses. I think he is maybe ashamed of, or resentful of, or sensitive about his personal background, whether it be wealth or whatever. I think there's a lot of just, I think he's also the kind of guy who was taught that every human life has worth and value, and I don't think he believes it. I think his movies are about men who are told that each life is sacred, and he also refuses to believe that.
Well, he's like vaguely aware that a heroic mindset is that like life is valuable,
yes,
and that like you have to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
But also, I think Six Underground is like a great example of this.
Yeah.
Where in like very early in the movie, we see them like kill a bunch of civilians with their cars.
That's what I'm
like,
talking about. There's such glee.
And it's not even just implied. We see a random man just get hit by the car and go flying over it.
And it's like, you hit a dude!
But then,
he's like, no!
But then later on in the movie, they're driving over civilians. Those evil fucks! Completely unironically.
It's such a fascinating movie, Six Underground, because it's a world in which like CIA operatives and billionaires and hitmen and dictators and all these people, they exist in total vacuums. They have no interaction with one another unless people like explicitly go out of their way to make a connection. They just... all these things exist in a vacuum. There's no awareness of how the world actually works. It's just a man who was told things at a very young age, who never internalized those ideas, was not like curious enough to look deeper into what those connections might be, and was just told like, good guys are good, bad guys are bad, go make your movie. And he takes such glee and enjoyment out of showing you every burst of blood, that it almost is like Six Underground is a movie about how this guy's like, we just got to do good in this world, and it's like, no you don't, murder everyone, it's fun and for profit, it's great.
Well, Six Underground is not an old movie, but something about it just feels like it's aged very poorly. But it
came out last year.
I know, it just came out, and yet it feels like a movie that was made in like 2010, and it has
feels
not
like an idea Michael Bay had in 2008.
It's just like, yeah, it's uniquely tone deaf because, especially right after 13 Hours, I was surprised to see a movie where the whole plot is like Americans, they're not just Americans, but like Americans and some Europeans do a coup in a Middle Eastern country.
White Americans, yeah. I mean,
like,
white Europeans.
Right. They liberate a bunch of I think it's a fictional country, but it's like some Middle Eastern country. They do a coup and they liberate them and save the day that way. And it's like, whoa. Michael Bay.
Crazy. Insane. That you're like, yes, we need to be doing more coups in the Middle East. That is our problem.
Really, yeah. I mean, that's what's so confusing about this guy, because it's like, that's like right after 13 Hours.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some Transformers movies
but
in
those
between.
we are not talking about. We are dashing them off.
It's insane. So, okay. Bad Boys. Do we have anything else to say about that before we really go off the deep end?
Yeah, I think that's another reason why I don't love Bad Boys. I don't find it as an interesting. I think it's interesting in that it is Michael Bay's jumping off point. You see some ideas he would pick up on and expand. He's establishing his language. He still has to explain explosions like we were talking about. He still has this veneer of like coherent
There
plot.
are still some moments of sincerity. Like I like that about it, honestly. But one of the first scenes is Martin Lawrence with his son, and his son is like, Dad, the kids at school say that I have big ears.
I got big ears. That's better for listening with.
Hey, listen,
Flap
it's better
'em.
for listening to other people's problems. You're an angel, and those are your wings. Flap them.
Love you, baby. That's definitely not in the script. That was pure Martin Lawrence improving 100%.
It's so sincere and cute and like good. Because we're going to be following this character for the rest of the movie, so it makes me like him and care about him.
Yeah, but I actually never cared about him, so I'm like, this is wasted. This could be showing me an explosion or someone's head popping off. It could be showing me literally anything else, and this movie's already 2 hours and feels like it's 5. You need to cut it. If it's not serving some other purpose, Michael Bay, get rid of it.
That's not wrong. I mean, I'm definitely grading this on a scale because I've watched like nothing but Michael Bay movies for the last 2 weeks, but like... On the Bay scale, Bad Boys won. A pretty sensitive, restrained
What
movie.
is your favorite Michael Bay film?
Okay, so my 2 favorite Michael Bay movies happen to be the 2 movies that are in the Criterion collection.
Armageddon and The Rock.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I think those are really good, really solid, great action movies, and I think that Michael Bay was the right person to direct both of those.
I love...
The Rock is very fun. It's solid throughout. The interactions between Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery are great. It kind of has a moral, because like it's about Marines who were not properly compensated by the government.
Yeah.
And now they're out for revenge.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of raising some moral dilemmas that way. It's just solid, really well done. Armageddon, I think... I would almost say it's a transcendent movie.
I think that's a perfect word for it.
I'm so glad that you agree with this insane Armageddon take. Because it goes beyond what an action movie would normally do. The Rock, solid action movie. It stuck to the genre. It did it. Armageddon takes it so much further.
Dementia.
Steve Buscemi gets space dementia. There's an earthquake on an asteroid. The asteroids start hitting the asteroid. The whole plot is that Bruce Willis and the rest of the team have to blow up the asteroid so that it splits in two and doesn't explode the entire planet. The stakes are that the entire planet is going to be destroyed if they don't do this successfully.
You will never see a movie like it again because we've fallen so out of vogue with mass destruction films since 9/11.
You only saw that in 1999. This was one of the last... I mean, yeah, you can't do it anymore. It was one of the last movies where destroying New York was fun.
Just fun.
And like Transformers movies destroy cities, but like something about it.
It's not specific. It doesn't revel in architecture being destroyed.
Seriously. Yeah. It has to be like because in most of those movies you see people with like dust all over their faces emerging from the rubble.
9/11.
And it like has to be a little bit serious, but the 90s were just the heyday of like watching the White House explode and going, yeah!
That happens multiple times in 90s movies because we were so just... We had no enemies. We had just destroyed the Soviet Union. We had nothing else to rail against, so we're just like, let's rail against our bodies. X Games became a thing. MMA started taking off. We just were like, let's blow up Manhattan for fun.
The 90s
let's do it again.
were such an angry time, and it was entirely directed at just everything.
It's
like,
aimless.
What was everyone angry about? Like, the freaking man, we're all part of the goddamn machine.
And there were reasons to be mad.
Sure, of course, there's always been inequality. There's always been racism in this country. But like in the 90s, the anger,
it was not focused.
It wasn't necessarily focused on those things. No. It was just anger at everything. And
because we had all this displaced rage from the Soviet Union falling. We're like, where do we put this now? ourselves.
And I just love it. I just love watching buildings explode. I love watching the asteroids hit New York, and it makes a crater in the ground, but everyone around it is fine. And jumping in, the guy jumps into the hole to get his dog.
It's fine.
I think Armageddon is such a good movie because the plot is so insane. They have to
get nonsense. They
have to get oil. They have to get oil riggers to be able to drill into the asteroid
because
and
the astronauts they have are terrible diggers.
Bruce Willis is the only one who can dig
but also Ben Affleck can.
And we need Ben Affleck. The plot is so insane and ridiculous, but it's never confusing and it never pisses you off. And it's a perfect Michael Bay movie. Because it doesn't really
try to explain itself ever. It's just like, this is crazy,
fine.
Enjoy.
Every step is more and more insane, and it raises the stakes
somehow every
beyond
time.
Where you could possibly even imagine the stakes
They're
being
gonna
raised.
blow up a nuclear bomb on everyone, and it won't destroy. So everyone is gonna die early, and also the Earth will die.
The stakes are high, but then an earthquake happens on the asteroid, and then the detonator breaks in the nuke, and then Steve Buscemi gets space dementia. And then we learn that Bruce Willis has to stay behind. And then he also loses the detonator and he has to crawl on the asteroid. It's great. I love
It's the perfect
Armageddon.
alchemical blend because the plot is garbage. The editing isn't great, but it's just forced sentimentality with just enough good performance, with just enough fun action, where The Rock and Bad Boys to me don't quite hit the spot. I just kind of floated in and out of Armageddon. I was trying to stay in it the entire time, but it kept pushing me back, and I kept being sucked in. It was like the fucking tides, man. I was just going back and forth, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm digging it. My dad came up halfway through while I was watching it, and literally just started quoting every line verbatim as it was happening at me, and I'm like, this sucks, and I'm out, and then I just keep going back in, and I'm like, holy shit, why do I like this? I cannot defend it.
And it always stays character-driven. So
even though it's so insane,
and the motivations are always simple. You know, Ben Affleck wants to fuck Bruce Willis's daughter. Wants to marry her. He's in love.
Be
too crass.
Fucking chaste about this.
And then Ben
Affleck is a romantic in these movies.
Bruce Willis has to learn to let go and sacrifice himself. And
Owen Wilson dies.
Michael Bay watched Bottle Rocket, saw Owen Wilson in that.
Really?
Loved him, and that's why he's in Armageddon.
Oh, we love that. I wish Owen Wilson were in more Bay films. Yeah. I love Owen Wilson in any movie.
Owen Wilson is great in this, yeah.
And
also at the very end...
It's perfect, stupid Bay.
So this insane... masculine, I think is fair to say, action movie ends.
And there's only one point when it's that is where the song is from.
I don't want to fall
For reference, Dan and I were in a car with Day and Kayla, our two very dear friends, driving home from some hiking trail, and we all just shouted this song.
But I thought it was an insane choice to use that song for this movie.
The song is from the movie.
Realize that, which is...
That's another part of the beautiful alchemical blend is Aerosmith. Just dude rock. It's dude's rock on the dude rock. That's the movie. And it's perfect. I love it.
And then also just the cinematography in Armageddon. I mean, those swirly shots where it's like super close up, and the camera's
just
swirling around an
Billy
actor.
Bob Thornton's head.
Those shots in the control room where you have the lights behind him,
and they're just
they're all
like
different colored, and like that shot has never looked better than it does in Armageddon.
And it's so dramatic. This is the movie where context matters the least. He's able to just get dynamic shots in constantly, and the context doesn't matter because the movie needs no fucking context. It's not about anything. There's honestly not that much of Michael Bay's like neuroses poking their way in, so you don't have like anything to read into.
It's well paced.
Yeah.
You know, I think
it's 2.5 hours, but it doesn't drag.
But it doesn't feel like it. You have to meet a bunch of characters. There's a lot of stuff that happens. So you're never in like no man's land where like Michael Bay is just filling time by making a character have diarrhea for no reason.
I think it's also just a great blend of two. It's Ocean's 11 by way of Independence Day. And truly, I think that's a marvelous blend of films. More movies should be
That's a good call.
More movies should be by way of Ocean's 11. Just a team of highly skilled dudes who gotta do something. Also, I love that kind of shit.
I just want to point out that Michael Bay is weirdly fixated on this idea that the government knows more about the JFK assassination than we do.
That's in The Rock and in Armageddon!
The
ending of The Rock
the only way that
Nicolas Cage stealing the Zapruder
That's
film.
literally the last sign.
Yeah.
Last line, sorry, is Nicolas Cage going, so do you want to know who really killed JFK?
And then one of the guy's conditions for going on the asteroid is that they tell him who killed JFK.
Which is very funny. That's the only way that Michael Bay is allowed into the Criterion Collection.
I want to see Michael Bay's JFK. That is not my favorite Bay film.
Which
Armageddon is not
what is your favorite? Do you want to go through these one by one?
Sure.
I mean, there's so many. So the next is Pearl Harbor. We haven't talked about Pearl Harbor very much
is my
at all.
favorite Michael Bay film. I love
Is it
Pearl
really?
Harbor, unironically.
Pearl Harbor sucks so bad, dude.
Everyone hates it.
Pearl Harbor is maybe my least favorite. I don't know that it's the worst. I can't really say that it's the worst. I hate Pearl Harbor.
I love Pearl Harbor.
Justify this. Talk to me.
No, man. What do you want me to say? I love it. I love it's an old Hollywood romance. Everything is shot so light and gauzy, like it's fucking Gone with the Wind. The romance is so sincere and earnest. I genuinely think that not Liv Tyler, what's her name? Kate Beckinsale and Ben Affleck have tremendous chemistry. I am a slut for Ben Affleck. I think the action is so well paced and brutal in the middle section. I love the best friends to enemies trope between him and his best friend. I love the scene in the hospital when shit's getting crazy and it's all like out of focus and gauzy and nonsense. I think it's such a wonderful, grand romance in the vein of Titanic and Gone with the Wind. Oh. And I know no one agrees with me. I know no one sees it this way. I know I'm alone on this, but I cannot deny my feelings. I'm not trying to be like edgy or contrarian.
No, I believe that you're completely sincere, and I respect that opinion. I completely disagree with
Everyone
you. I think
does,
it's a piece
man.
of shit movie.
It's not a piece of shit, man.
Okay, well, I think that after Armageddon, The Rock, Bad Boys, Michael Bay had a reputation as a really good action movie director. I think he wanted to break out and be respected.
Yes.
I think he said, I mean, this is not a hot take, that Pearl Harbor is Michael Bay's Titanic.
Yes.
But
it was billed that way. It was
Michael
framed
Bay
that way.
watched Titanic and he understood that it made a lot of money, that it's considered a great movie. Yeah. I don't think Michael Bay got Titanic. I don't think Michael Bay likes Titanic. I think Michael Bay watched Titanic and was like, okay, I'll do Titanic, but more. 2 people fall in love on Titanic. Pearl Harbor, 3 people fall in love.
And it's better for it.
It's not. In Titanic, a ship sinks. Cool. Pearl Harbor, 12 ships will sink.
It's more dramatic
That's
this
fun.
time.
In Pearl Harbor, the iceberg kills everyone? Nah. In Pearl Harbor, there's an attack, and then you know what? They regroup and they kick the iceberg's ass. And
yeah.
It's so stupid.
Love it. I love the Christ imagery at the end. There's not the best thing you can be in a Michael Bay person is a dead hero. You're never better than when you're dead in a Michael Bay film.
That's fair.
And I think
he loves some martyrs.
Perfectly emblematic of that. He loves a martyr. I love a martyr. I like this movie more than Titanic. I don't know what to tell you.
That's fucked. I mean, this movie, there is a full movie of just Ben Affleck and Kate Beckinsale falling in love.
I love that.
I don't think Michael Bay is interested in that at all, and therefore I'm not interested in it. I disagree.
I think it's beautifully lit. I think it's. I fall in love.
We're talking about a 3-hour movie, and you're telling me that it's well lit. I agree, but
and it's so. I fall in love with them through the lighting, through their just banter. I don't know what to tell you. I find him so charismatic, Ben Affleck. I just think I love Ben Affleck.
That's fair. Ben Affleck is hot. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that. But then halfway through Pearl Harbor actually happens.
Yeah.
And that's like a quarter of the movie. And that part is good. I mean, the explosions are fun to watch. And Michael Bay can direct action, and the action in Pearl Harbor is great.
I think it's gut-wrenching.
It's really well done.
Horrible to watch. It is.
I think he kind of revels in it.
Yes, of course he does.
I think
That's
he
Michael
kind
Bay.
of loves it too much for it to be effective.
I don't know. I find it fucked.
I think in Titanic, there's like that moment where the guy jumps off and hits the propeller, and he goes, ah!
There's a scene in this where like 2 guys hit like some metal and they go flipping everywhere.
Right,
and it's
Michael
more.
Bay loves
it's
it.
more.
He loves it too much.
How can it not be better if it's more, Dan? I don't understand
That's
you.
exactly what sucks about this.
No, it's perfect.
Titanic is a long movie. Pearl Harbor will be 3
hours. Yeah, and it's great. I loved all the movies.
And then
they put in there.
after Pearl Harbor, the movie is over.
No,
in
it's
my
not.
opinion.
Nope.
In my opinion, it is. But then Alec Baldwin sends them across the ocean to bomb Tokyo.
Of course.
And it's like,
because Ben Affleck's gotta wind up with Kate Beckinsale.
The movie's done. I've been watching for 2.5 hours at this point, and now a character dies, and you expect me to care about this?
Yeah, man. Yeah, of course. I love it. Love it so much. No one else will. This is not me telling you to watch Pearl Harbor, because it is 3 hours, and chances are you don't have my brain disease where you like it. But if you like Ben Affleck, if you love Ben Affleck, watch Pearl Harbor.
I think anyone who loves Ben Affleck has probably seen Pearl Harbor.
I don't know what to tell you.
I think the third quarter of the movie is great. Where Pearl Harbor is happening, I think that it's done really well. I think it's unbelievably impressive to be able to organize.
You have that iconic shot of
and
the camera
execute something like that,
twirling opposite the bomb that's going down, that
which
he
is
reuses
great.
in 13 hours. He does that same exact shot with the mortar in 13 hours.
There's one Transformers movie where he does something similar to that.
Oh yeah, where Optimus Prime is the torpedo instead of an actual torpedo. Pearl Harbor, man. I would be remiss if I didn't out myself as a Pearl Harbor stan on this Michael Bay podcast. What else we got? We got...
After Pearl Harbor, we got Bad Boys 2. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And then The Island, which is the least Michael Bay movie.
Because it's a J.J. Abrams movie.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess so.
He did a J.J. Abrams with it. There's so much lens flare. It's written by Orksy and Kurtzman, who I think did the Star Trek movies. The J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. Sure. Also Wesleyan alums, which is I think why Bay used them. It's a J.J. Abrams film. It's a sci-fi film. It's a mystery box premise. And I forget who said it, but someone said, like, you can't get coy with the Bay mouth-breathing audience. And I think that's true. They're kind of just like, this has got some themes to it.
I think it's the only Bay movie that's lost money.
I wouldn't be surprised because, like I said, it's a little too coy and heady for the Bay audience.
I think it's good. I think it's one of his best.
I think it's so boring. It has none of...
Fair.
It has none of the...
I think a lot of his movies are bad.
That's true. It has none of, like, the joy or the tongue-in-cheek humor that any of the Bay... Even Pearl Harbor, which is about fucking Pearl Harbor, it's got jokes and banter and witty repartee, as it were. The Island has none of that. It's just two Ewan McGregors, which should be enough for me, but it's
There's
not.
a Scarlett Johansson in there.
Yeah, that's true. She's like 21 in that movie.
Really?
Oh, she's a baby in that movie.
She's very young. Yeah, I think it's solid. I mean, I don't think it's amazing. I think it's very much like you take a bunch of early 2000s sci-fi movies. Yeah. Like you got Minority Report, you got iRobot, you take Matrix, which I know is 1999.
But still.
And then you mix them all up. You get The Island. The premise is not exactly unique. I mean, if you can even call it a twist, it's not like mind-blowing. You kind of see it coming. But it's all done fine. It's well acted.
It's the
okay.
kind of limp sci-fi movie where you could either call it like a criticism of America's healthcare system or an anti-abortion film.
That did occur to me.
It's either or.
Can we spoil
bullshit.
The Island, you think?
Sure.
It's fine. They're clones.
Yeah.
It's a clone factory. Their little world that they live in.
And they're being harvested for whatever their benefactors
It feels
need.
very much like a 16-year-old high schooler's idea for a sci-fi movie.
Of course, because it's written by Kurtzman and Orksy, the hacks who gave you the amazing Spider-Man 2.
So there's
garbage.
This world and a bunch of people, and they all wear white, and they live in this society, and they get to go to the island every once in a while. But turns out they're clones, and the island is that they die, and they have to give their organs to
it's the kind of Soylent Green bullshit. It's so dumb.
It's done. I think it's executed well and well acted.
Piss boring. I wanted more Steve Buscemi. I wanted more of him.
I think maybe a theme we'll find here is that the neutral Michael Bay movies are pretty good, and that you hate them.
Yeah. What's next after The Island?
After The Island, we get Transformers 1.
Bad.
All the Transformers are bad, in my opinion.
They're so important in film history, and they're terrible.
I mean, people defend Transformers 1 more than the other ones, but I don't...
It's the first.
I don't even think Transformers 1
I think the most interesting Transformers 1 is the first one with Mark Wahlberg. That was my favorite of them.
Oh, the one where guy
TJ
pulls
Miller
out
dies.
where TJ Miller dies, yes. And also the 20-year-old pulls out a card explaining to Mark Wahlberg
why he can fuck his underage
it is
daughter.
technically legal for him to fuck Mark Wahlberg.
I love that shit because it's so fucked up.
It's so insane.
It's so fucked.
It's so insane. The Transformers movies are, I mean, Michael Bay completely being unshackled and like Pearl Harbor, the island, Michael Bay, I think, was trying to be someone who he wasn't. And trying to be mature and tamper down his style. I would say
in Pearl Harbor he did it very successfully.
I would not really agree. I mean, even in Pearl Harbor, he can't resist making, like, butt jokes.
Of course, and I love them. I love every one of them. There's not a flaw in Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
That's not true. I mean, like, okay, we could talk about the FDR shit is dumb, and we could talk about
right. I forgot John Voight plays FDR.
John Voight in, like, the early 2000s was in pursuit of putting on the most fucked up prosthetics. He did that. He played Howard Cosell in Ali. He just
there's a part in Pearl Harbor where all the generals around FDR are like, Pearl Harbor is happening. And it's bad.
Tries to stand.
And FDR goes,
you're definitely fucking the mics right now. This is a visual medium.
If I can stand up, then we can stand up to fascism.
There's a D plot with Cuba Gooding Jr. that does
Cuba
absolutely
Gooding Jr.
nothing.
is in this movie for a total of probably 12 minutes.
I think the movie would genuinely be better if you either gave him more to do or cut him entirely, but he's there, and you know what? I still love Pearl Harbor. I cannot stop talking about Pearl Harbor. What's after the first bunch of Transformers?
Then we got Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon.
Bad movies.
I cannot differentiate these. Like, I really
one of them
couldn't tell
has
you the
Optimus
difference
Prime
between
dying
them.
in it.
I know one of them, Megan Fox, gets replaced by a blonde lady.
That's the third one, Rosie Huntington Whiteley.
John Malkovich is there, Ken Jeong is there. I mean, these movies have so much that, like, it's impossible to remember what happens. Like
in one of them,
Ken Jeong is a character. What does he do in this?
I think he.
What is
goes
John
crazy.
Malkovich's? That's not enough.
I don't know. I forgot John Malkovich was in him.
John Malkovich is in
I think Frances McDormand is in him.
Stanley Tucci, yes.
Stanley Tucci plays two different characters in two different movies.
Yes, he's in them twice. John Turturro and Francis
Anthony
McDormand
Hopkins
make
has
out
a
with
robot,
right?
like a robot
he has
butler.
Kind of a gay robot lover.
Is he gay?
Question mark. He's coded gay for sure.
He's queer coded. Sure.
Yeah.
There's just a lot. The main takeaway is that the protagonists suck. They're obnoxious, preening assholes. They're what Bay thinks of his audience. You suck. You can't do shit. You luck into everything you get. I think it's honestly Bay saying, this is who I am. And I think it's an accidental reflection of himself, or him projecting his worst fear version of himself. Just a shitty, talentless guy who lucks into success, who's obnoxious and preening, and accidentally got every good thing in his life.
Transformers 1... There are action shots where shot to shot there's like vignettes and then not vignettes on the frame, and it's so hard to watch.
The aspect ratios are constantly
continuity
shifting.
Of like where you're focused. It's like vignette, gone vignette. Like
it's just the frame is constantly changing.
Impossible. And I think maybe my biggest issue with the Transformers movies is that I never buy the Transformers as characters.
No. They feel so lifeless and plastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I can watch Optimus Prime get ripped in half.
It doesn't matter.
I can watch, what's his name? The main Decepticon.
You fucking child.
Get ripped in half. It would all register exactly the same to me.
None of it matters.
Yeah.
They're just... And it's not like a movie you could make with practical effects. It's impossible.
No, I mean, he does a lot of it with practical effects, but ultimately the robots have to be CGI.
And they don't feel like people ever. No. They have no faces.
Part of that is the CGI. They don't have faces. I think that is... The
character design is awful
for that reason, because like even when it's close-up on them, it's barely a face.
And you can never differentiate the heroes from the bad guys. It's just a mash of just bobs and bits firing at each other, and you're like, who am I rooting for here? I don't understand what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I don't think Michael Bay cares about the Transformers at all.
So, no, he doesn't care about them as characters.
They're tough, man. They're tough.
Then we have 13 Hours, which I think we talked about.
Then we have Pain and Gain, actually.
Oh, fuck, we didn't talk about Pain and Gain.
Pain and Gain.
I really like Pain and Gain.
I like Pain and Gain.
Which is insane to me, because it is, I think, one of the... I mean, it's very Bay in that it wildly vacillates from, like, actual drama and, like, criticism of the American psyche to like bonkers off the wall like jokes about severed arms and limbs, and I think that's part of it. I think that's part of the criticism, is that like we are a country that is just like beefheads getting angry and mad, and our next solution is just fucking chop them up. Who gives a shit?
Pain and Gain is 3 bodybuilders who come up with an insane scheme to kidnap a rich client who goes to the gym and like extort all his money from him.
Yeah.
They spend all the money. They need more money.
They try to extort him again.
They try to extort someone else for more money.
And don't they like become friends with the guy they're extorting or whatever?
They kind of become friends with him. They accidentally kill him and his wife. And then it all falls apart. And they can't claw their way into prosperity because the American dream is fake. But that message is also undercut by the text of the film because what's his name? Who plays the rich guy? Tony Shalhoub. His character also came up from nothing and did it successfully. So like I really think that like you could read this movie as saying that the American dream is real. Mark Wahlberg just didn't achieve it because he was a dumbass.
Well, I think
and Tony Shalhoub did because he was smarter.
I think it's specifically a criticism of Bay's audience, because this is Bay's audience. This is who they want to be. I'm big, I'm hot, I'm strong. I'm big. He does like those affirmations. He gets swole. But if you're the type of guy who's just like,
do you want to be a monument to physical perfection? Do you want to be a shrine?
Yeah.
I love that.
He's Mark Wahlberg. I hate him as a person. He shouldn't be in Hollywood. He's attempted to kill multiple, I think, Vietnamese people when he was like a teenager. That's a fact about Mark Wahlberg.
I know, it's insane.
But like, I seriously can't imagine anyone doing that role better.
No.
It's basically like just meathead Americans, Bay's audience, the people who want to be a shrine to physical perfection. It's like, this is what happens when you try to achieve the American dream. You fuck it up because you have some terrible brain plans, and then you get angry and you try to make things better, and you just bleed everywhere at Home Depot. It's bad. You're bad and dumb. And they're like, I'm big, I'm hot, I'm strong, I'm big, I'm hot, I'm strong. And that's it. That's the movie. I think it's more a criticism of Bay's audience, the type of people who watch a Bay movie.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know that I think the movie just has fucked up messaging.
Possibly. It's like, either is true. It's the Freddy Got Fingered problem where you're like, is this great criticism or is it bad film?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think that Michael Bay was trying to make a critique of the American dream and say that, like, it's an illusion and that, like, it's actually not possible to go from rags to riches. But, like, the text of the film doesn't really support that because,
but just
like,
enough of his neuroses bubble in to make it work again.
I guess, yeah. I mean, these guys failed because they're morons, not because the American dream doesn't work. We see it work for another character.
You're gonna fail because you're a moron and because you have no money. Sometimes you can
I'm gonna succeed because I'm smart and Jewish.
Sometimes if you're Jewish and lucky, you will get the money. But if you're a meathead who likes my movies, you're not gonna get it. You just can't do it.
Yeah, so I like Pain and Gain. I appreciate that Michael Bay is like trying to do something different, especially after the Transformers movies. He's working with a budget of like $25 million.
And he's just like, I'm going to do this.
Which is a lot less. I especially think that Dwayne Johnson's performance
very good. This is the only time
good.
I've ever genuinely thought he was good in a movie.
Yeah, I think he does great in this.
Because he goes from like very it's all in his face. I mean, obviously he has the body for the role, but he goes from like this very charismatic, charming...
He's like a born-again Christian who's trying to escape the sins of his past, but can't really do it.
But then once he gets caught up, all those features that make him charming and charismatic, like this big guy who's down to earth, he's got a very endearing face, big welcoming eyes. As soon as he goes crazy, they fucking flip. He becomes a hulking menace with insane eyes who you do not want to approach. And the way he just switches so quickly, I think it's a great performance.
I agree with you. Yeah, I really think it's a very complex character. And Dwayne pulls it off super well. I don't know why I'm on a first name basis with him now.
Mr. The Rock.
Mr. The Rock, excuse me.
Yeah. And then what do we got? We got 6 Underground, right? I mean, there's more Transformers.
Well, we got Transformers, we got 13 hours,
which I think we talked about.
We talked about. Do I have anything more to say about it? No,
I
not
just
really.
think
I do just want to point out that like a lot of the themes that we talked about like the American military, I might not even reflect Michael Bay's beliefs, if that matters, because he has deals with the Department of Defense to fund all the Transformers movies are in large part
that's the same deal with the Marvel movies, the DC movies as well.
I mean, this is a lot of movies, and it's almost every Michael Bay movie after Armageddon.
Yeah.
All the scripts go to the Pentagon
to get approval.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that doesn't mean that the Pentagon knows what they're reading or looking at because they're staffed by idiots.
Well, they reject
speaking.
some movies if they don't represent the American military in a way that they find favorable.
Yeah, but also they're still dumb.
They want the movies to be recruiting tools too.
Of course, yes. But it doesn't mean I necessarily agree with them. I think they can be viewed as critical of the... I mean, like, yes, it fetishizes soldiers specifically.
Right.
And... well, they're actually technically not soldiers. They're mercenaries. They're hired killers. They're not technically military personnel. And
well, who?
The secret soldiers of Benghazi. They're ex-military.
Right, true.
But they're technically mercenaries at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily even just talking about 13 Hours specifically here, but just like Michael Bay's films in general and how the military is reflected in them.
Yeah.
I think is in large part because people at the Pentagon watch the movies and then make cuts or edits.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the movie has empathy for these people, and I think that's rightfully so. Like,
I think 13 Hours is one of Michael Bay's strongest movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's low-key and more focused.
Yeah, it's not to say it's not bombastic and garish.
But it's simple, you know? It's not insane.
The plot is simple.
Right, yeah.
Fair,
yeah.
Or not simple, but comprehensible. There's not like 17 plots
I would say it's
coalescing.
simple. I mean, they're under siege by terrorists, and they have to kill them and escape.
Yeah, there's...
It's simple. And it's good. I think that's good for Michael Bay.
Yeah, it doesn't have, 13 intersecting plots. I mean, there's lots of characters with different motivations.
Right.
And, the explanation behind why the embassy that's not an embassy is under siege is complicated. But, it's basically a siege. You have to defend the base type movie.
Yeah.
But I think the film has, a decent amount of empathy for these guys because, quite frankly, I think Bay, at his heart, at his core, thinks it is genuinely fucked that these guys who are paid mercenaries who are only there because the army is not, paying them adequate wages after they retire that they can stay home. So they have to keep going back to these fucked up countries, these fucked up situations to, fight wars that are just happening because we want favorable oil deals or whatever the fuck. I think Bay is genuinely sympathetic to that.
Right, and that's the theme in The Rock, too, which are these ex-Marines who did not get appropriately compensated, even though they put their lives on the line. And I think that's something that Michael Bay believes in strongly.
And I think...
and I agree with him.
Yeah, of course.
I think he's totally right.
I think he can't help but fetishize these guys because he genuinely wishes he was them. He wishes he was he was a monument to physical perfection.
He wants to be a shrine.
But he's at the end of the day, he can't help but valorize the CIA, even though they're depicted as bumbling idiots. The end is just this is in honor of the fallen CIA guys or whatever the fuck. And it's what are you doing here, Michael? It's a little bit incoherent, but whatever.
I don't know. I think that it really is consistent that the people who are directing the soldiers are idiots and are bumbling, and then the soldiers who are actually doing the job are heroes. I think that's consistent in almost all of his movies.
I guess. All right, I buy that.
So I mean, he hates the government, but he loves
government, specific government,
and
employees.
that's the ideology of half the country.
That's true.
They don't like the government, but they love individuals in the military.
I guess.
And I think Michael Bay feels the same way. I guess I'm reflecting
my own, I don't understand that. You either like the government and the people who enact its violence to uphold its rules, or you don't. That's my philosophy, but I guess for some people it's you respect the people.
No, people who put their lives on the on the line are heroic, and we should admire them.
Which
and
goes back to Pearl Harbor. The most heroic
wars.
people are the dead ones. Same in Armageddon.
Right.
Bruce Willis dies, so he is the hero. If you are not the hero unless you die.
Mm-hmm.
I think consistent. And what, Six Underground?
Transformers: The Last Night?
No, we saw that in theaters. I had a headache when I watched it. I don't remember anything other than Anthony Hopkins and that Optimus Prime holds a sword. Stanley Tucci.
Six Underground.
Yeah. I love that one.
You love it?
I hate it. It's my least favorite Bay because, I genuinely think whoever wrote it needs to be shot and the editors need to be sent to the gulag.
This is consistent in a ton of Michael Bay movies. They have, 4 screenwriters.
Yeah.
And that's why the stories are a garbled nightmare.
What is the plot of Six Underground? Can you remind me?
Six Underground, I think the plot is that there's the secret squad of, ex-military or dudes and women from a whole lot of different backgrounds who have faked their own deaths so that they can act anonymously.
Dave Franco dies in the first scene.
He does, and they could kill evil people and
Yeah.
make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And in Six Underground, they do a coup in a country called Turkmenistan.
Which is not a real country, I don't believe.
Or Turkestan.
Turkestan? Some fake country in the Middle East.
They do a coup there.
Yes.
And they overthrow the evil guy and put his brother in charge. That's the plot of Six Underground.
They do a billion things to do that, and they have so many opportunities to kill him, and they never do.
That isn't to say that the movie isn't confusing.
Yes, I really could not. My brain kept glossing over it. It was just like a glazed fucking
My
donut.
broad hot take about Six Underground is that the first 20 minutes are awesome.
Very well choreographed.
I love that like extended car chase in the beginning where they're driving through the museum.
It's very cheesy. I mean that if you watch it on mute, because the dialogue is atrocious.
The script is really, really bad.
It's rancid. It's the type of Ryan Reynolds garbage that you get if you watch Deadpool.
I think Ryan Reynolds does well in Six Underground.
I cannot stand Ryan Reynolds.
Interesting.
He is the most emblematic of obnoxious Hollywood tongue-in-cheek 5,000 layers of irony bullshit that I cannot stand.
I think he does a great job in this. I think he manages to make the lines even sometimes funny, even though they're written terribly.
Literally
I think
never
his
laughed once.
delivery is charismatic, and he has good enough timing that he sells it, even though it sucks.
I disagree, but that's fair.
Okay.
I think a lot of people do agree with you. I think this is just a me thing. But I think the moment I love most in Six Underground is when they've just rescued the dictator's brother, who loves democracy, of course, and wants to plant the seeds of democracy. They get him off a zip line, and he starts trying to run away. And one of the Six Underground, starts
starts
beating him in the face. And I think that's Michael Bay. He fucking hates you. He hates you so much. He wants to beat the shit out of you. He wants to pummel you for all the right reasons. And it's Michael Bay. He wants to beat the shit out of democracy.
Ryan Reynolds' character is a magnet expert. He's
a
CEO
and
magnet guy, and there's a point in like towards the end of the movie where he turns an entire boat into a magnet.
He becomes Magneto for a
hot
sec
from
the X-Men.
And then sticks all the people to the boat, and that is so it's insane that the movie did not do anything to set that up. We learn early on.
They do a tiny thing that he's a magnet expert.
We learn that he's a magnet guy. Okay, fine, we learn that. But then like an hour later, everyone is stuck to the boat.
Well, they sort of set it up in that diner where he keeps moving the salt shaker.
Yeah, kind of.
And then the payoff is insane. They did not set it off
so disproportionate.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I just think it's so funny that he's a billionaire magnet expert. Such a dumb guy's version of what a smart entrepreneur is. That's what an idiot's like, I'm going to be a magnet expert. I'm going to make $1 billion. It's like a child's version of what a smart billionaire is. It's a child's version of Elon Musk. Not that Elon Musk is a smart billionaire, but like,
yeah, I don't know. Six Underground, I can't recommend. I can't recommend it, but it's on Netflix, so go watch the first 20 minutes. Because I do genuinely think that is like really well directed and fun to watch action.
I think it's another one of Bay's films that suck to watch, but if you're an aspiring filmmaker, you absolutely should watch for craft purposes. There's so much good lighting, so much great production, like design and like practical effect work that 100% watch how he does it. It's edited into oblivion. The people who edited that shit deserve the gulag for sure.
I think Michael Bay is like,
I don't think he's the
directing well, he's not credited, but I think he has an enormous amount of control over the edit,
in the editing room.
And I think he is largely to blame for why so many of his movies
are
like
so
incomprehensible.
Fucking incomprehensible and long.
Yeah. Because they're all like that, and they don't all have the same editor, so who are you going to blame?
Yeah. Speaking of incomprehensible and way too long, Dan, you got any final thoughts on either Michael Bay or Bad Boys, anything?
How do you feel about the GoPro footage in some of his later movies? I think everything Pain and Gain and After has at least some GoPro footage.
I honestly hate that kind of shit.
Yeah, me too.
It's such a steep drop in visual quality from your beautiful 4K Alexa cameras or whatever the fuck, your Reds, whatever you're using, to just like shitty GoPro footage. The only time that I saw something like that in a movie that I was like, okay, even though it was very jarring, was in the Florida Project at the end where they use iPhone footage when they're in Disney World because they're not allowed to bring a nice camera, and they snuck that footage in.
Yeah, that always surprises me. And when I see it in a Michael Bay movie, because Michael Bay is like so precise and so obsessed with shooting on film, I think.
I'm not sure if he shoots on film, but like he cares about the
I know
quality
he's
of his
gone
film.
on record like whining about digital.
Then I wouldn't be surprised if he's shooting on film, guys. There's a small group of guys who still insist on film. You got guys like M. Night Shyamalan. I know Paul Thomas Anderson and Chris Nolan still insist.
But anyway,
on shooting
I'm always surprised to see that Michael Bay is comfortable using like a shitty little GoPro.
It looks so gross.
Does,
As soon as I see that footage, it immediately takes me out. It's very ugly. Get a guy with this, like, stabilize your camera strapped to a guy, throw him through a window like they do in the Bourne movies or in like Mad Max, or don't do it. You don't need that shot then. But it's in keeping with his philosophy of dynamism, getting the most dynamic shots possible. I wanted to go back to the very end of Bad Boys. I know this is ostensibly a Bad Boys podcast, and we talked a lot around Bad Boys, but I just think it's very funny, the ending of Bad Boys, where the guy is on the ground. They got him cornered after he says, "That's how you drive. From now on, that's how you drive." He's on the floor and he's begging Will Smith, "Kill me, shoot me, do it." And he won't. And the entire movie is so drenched in violence that you're like, of course, why isn't he going to kill him? This feels so dumb and forced and nonsense. And then the guy on the floor, when Will Smith isn't going to shoot him, pulls out his gun. I'm like, what the fuck? And then Will Smith obviously is given the excuse to shoot him. And I'm like, of course, this is so dumb.
He has his cake and he eats it too.
Of course.
Will Smith is heroic and won't kill him even though he could. But then also he gets to kill him.
It's like police brutality. He's above that. He's not a shit cop, even though they've just lit fire to half of Miami, and you still get to shoot the guy. You still get to revel in the violence. I think that's the apotheosis, once again, even if that's not the word, of Michael Bay. Someone who wants to have his cake and eat it too. Say like, no, violence is wrong. We're in the Middle East too much. You guys are idiots for reveling in this violence. Pearl Harbor was horrible. Also, let's kill him for fun.
Well, Michael Bay, I think, is just not capable of controlling his impulses. Nope. And it doesn't matter what the theme of the movie is or what the script says, like Michael Bay is going to do Michael Bay, and it could be completely incongruous, and he doesn't care.
Which is, I think, why I'm so happy we visited him this week, because like anyone who's like, oh, Michael Bay movies are dumb, there's no reason to watch them, they're just terrible. No, there's so much to gain from Michael Bay. If there's anything you could take away from this hour-and-a-half podcast, Michael Bay is a fascinating director. Even when he's bad, he's almost always interesting, except for The Island.
Fair enough. I want to give also quickly just fun trivia about one of the last scenes in Bad Boys is that Michael Bay spent $25,000 out of pocket.
Excuse me?
On the you didn't know this?
No.
The explosion in the airplane hangar.
He had to do
the big explosion at the climax of the movie.
They weren't gonna put it in the film?
He ran out of money. And the studio was like, no, you're out of funds. So Michael Bay paid for it.
Good for him. I don't know. I mean, I guess he'd been shooting films and music videos. I guess he had some money at that point.
Yeah, he had been working.
But like, oof, good for him. And he was right.
He was 100% right. He needed to do it.
That is Bayhem right there. That is Bayhem for sure. All right, I have nothing else to say.
I just wanted to give Michael Bay credit because I think he almost always has very, very good performances in his movies.
Yeah.
And I think he deserves credit for that. I think he lets actors do their thing and lets them improv, but also knows like when to keep it moving.
I mean, the edit doesn't necessarily reflect that because I feel like a lot of his improv does go on for too long. But that doesn't mean
definitely true.
But that doesn't mean he doesn't get good performances. Like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence have like, even though they fucking hate each other in these movies, the chemistry is still weirdly there. Like they seem like they have. They both give
great performances.
Yeah.
And he turned Will Smith into an action star. Like Will Smith was not known for doing action movies until that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Michael Bay, I think, gets a lot of credit for that.
I mean, Armageddon's got a sprawling cast. Everyone feels lived in and gives a good performance.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Cage and Sean Connery are just a joy to watch.
Everyone else rips on Ben Affleck and Kate Beckinsale in Pearl Harbor. Fucking works for me.
I mean, my issues with Pearl Harbor are not the performances.
Yeah, I mean, Shia LaBeouf is always giving an 100% grounded performance.
And Shia LaBeouf was so young, too.
Yeah, literal child actor still.
Yeah, he was 19.
I mean, even in Six Underground, I don't like Ryan Reynolds. He'll never give a good performance for me.
I think Six Underground is kind of an exception. I think a lot of the performances kind of suck. Six Underground.
It's hard. It's bad material.
They have
but they're competent actors.
Awful material.
Yeah, but they're all. I mean, Melanie Laurent is a competent actress. I'm pretty sure that's who the French woman is. I wish there was more Dave Franco in it because he's always fun.
He was very good in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, just the acting is never the issue in the Bay movies. It's very often the writing and the editing that makes the films unwatchable. Even when they're fascinating, oftentimes they're unwatchable, and that's the writing and the editing. All right, I think that's it.
That pretty much covers it, yeah.
I literally don't think there's anything else we could possibly say about Michael Bay.
No, we said it all. We covered it.
We said probably entirely too
Anyone
much.
who discusses Michael Bay after us is a hack and a fraud.
And
we did it already.
Gilding the lily. I think that's about...
Yeah, do you want to go to recommendation corner? My recommendation, obviously, is Armageddon. If you're going to watch a Michael Bay movie... Armageddon.
That is the correct recommendation. I don't recommend... Well, I mean, I'm going to say I don't recommend Bad Boys. I don't think it's that fun. No, I don't think it's that interesting as far as...
I think fine. It's like the greatest praise that I can give it is that it's competent.
I don't think it's the most interesting Bay film, and I don't think it's the most fun Bay film, and I don't think it's the best Bay film. Guys, don't watch Pearl Harbor, but... My recommendation is Pearl Harbor. Please
save yourself.
So if one other person out there likes Pearl Harbor even half as much as me, I will feel justified. I will feel vindicated. I will feel whole. Please, someone tell me they like Pearl Harbor.
I don't think Michael Bay even likes Pearl Harbor.
Probably not. It's literally just for me. Outside of Pearl Harbor, yeah, it's gonna have to be Armageddon, folks. Or Pain. You know what? Pain and Gain. Dan already did Armageddon. I'm going to say watch Pain and Gain. I like Pain and Gain. I think it's very interesting.
I think Pain and Gain is pretty solid.
Okay, so Pain and Gain, Armageddon. If you're an idiot like me, you'll like Pearl Harbor maybe. Bad Boys. I think that's one of the weaker films we've seen so far for this podcast specifically.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Alrighty. That's it. Next week or next 2 weeks, we're continuing November's theming. We're going to do No Nut November. We're going to talk about a guy who doesn't fuck at all. Charlie Kaufman, baby. We're going to watch his films in 2 weeks, so you have that to look forward to. Dan, where can people find...
Is Charlie Kaufman, are we doing the films that he wrote or only the ones that he directed?
So we're going to start and frame our discussion around Synecdoche, which is his debut as a director, but obviously we're going to go back and talk about Eternal Sunshine. We're going to talk about John Malkovich.
Cool.
And we're going to go forward. We're going to talk about Anomalisa, and I'm thinking of ending things as well.
Looking forward to it.
So Dan, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Dan Feingold.
You can also find me at Aaron Berkowitz, like the 18th century politician. We have another podcast that is gearing up, hopefully, a little bit.
No, a little bit. We'll see.
Commercial Boys.
No promises.
You can listen to us on Spotify. You can listen to the Commercial Boys podcast. You can watch us on YouTube. And you can follow us on Twitter at Commercial Boys. You can send us emails at Commercial Boys podcast at gmail.com. I don't know why I took the lead and I do not know anything.
You took the lead and then immediately looked at me.
Yeah, I'm like, Dan, please save me, baby. And I think that about does it.
Where can people find you, Jakey?
I said that on Twitter at Aaron Berkowitz.
Did you? Oh, okay.
Don't. If you...
I've listened to you for long enough.
Yeah,
I made it like an hour and
a half,
15 minutes, and then
no longer.
Nope, I can't take your words anymore. Sorry.
You know what? You hold on more than most people should. That does it for us. I'm sure I've said I think that about does it about 17 times, but yeah. 2 weeks, Charlie Kaufman. Get ready, bitches. Bye.
Bye.
Bad boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come?